Welcome. I'm Catherine Coble, and we're here today for a ShoffChat conversation. We want to talk a little bit today about customer experience and customer education. There's so much content out in the world, and we know that it's important to make really strong connections with people if we want to cut through that clutter. And so I'm in the studio today with my colleague, Justin Lacey. And we also have a special guest that's going to join us remotely, Erika Putinsky, who is the Vice President of Customer Education at Mailchimp. So thank you both for joining us today. Let's talk with you first, Justin, a little bit, and tell us a little bit about, in your experience, what do you think is one of the most important things we need to keep in mind when we're trying to create a good customer experience, especially in, let's say, a digital space?
Sure. Yeah, I always hinge on trying to make memorable experiences and give your audience a positive experience that they just associate with you and can pass that on, whether it's so they want to repeat that experience or they want to share that experience. They give them something to talk about, give them something that is relatable, and maybe even a little bit surprising. I tend to lean into the gamification side of things, of just showing a slightly different side of your brand's personality and surprising and delighting your audience with those. And if you give them something to talk about and you can kind of reproduce that experience on a consistent basis and get them to expect that type of experience, it can just change what they think about you, and then also just make you more memorable and stand out, because that's the trickiest part right now with so much content being out there in so many different forms. How do you stand out? And I think if you hit that personal level of making something memorable, that's the best place to start from.
Yeah, I think that's great advice, and it's a good way to really set your brand apart. Let's turn to Erika now. Erika, I'd love to hear your thoughts. I know you're specifically focused on customer education in your role at Mailchimp, and we want to talk a lot more in detail about customer education, but let's start with just the idea of customer experience. What do you all consider to be a good customer experience, particularly when you're looking at things in the digital space?
Sure. At Mailchimp, we're fortunate. We definitely have a weird brand, so we can show up and kind of wave that weird flag and have the quirkiness that people remember. But the thing where we found great success is to really lean in and meet people where they are. Everyone does have the opportunity to consume content anytime. Mm-hmm. So we want to make sure that we are aware of how people want to consume that content. So we're telling the story multiple ways in a variety of opportunities. So then a customer who's interested in audio, they can listen to a podcast and learn how to do whatever it is. A customer that really likes to read and have a to-do list, they can do that. Otherwise, we can do live webinars or videos or things like that. From our experience, it gives the customers that close relation. It helps them feel like we're listening. And then they have that chance to really learn and fully sort of absorb it in a way that's real and valuable for them.
That's great. So I'm wondering how you see innovation taking you further at Mailchimp. And also, Justin, I'd love to hear your thoughts on that too. I'd love to understand a little bit more about how people and brands can actually cut through that clutter and really take innovation to that next level. It just seems like there's so much going on out there. What are you guys looking at Mailchimp?
I think this might be the AI question that everybody always wants to talk about. For us, as we're moving into, sort of the next year, we're really thinking about localization and how we show up with content in language. So we found some really great advances with AI language modification. So then that way I can do a webinar in English, and I took high school German and I can't remember any of those language classes or that kind of thing, but through AI, we can switch my voice and tone, and we can switch the entire webinar for me to be able to present in French. Incredible. You keep that real human interaction, and you keep the voice of the human, which so often matches with people's faces, but it's in language and it's localized. So we're thinking about that. We're thinking about how do we use Chat GPT to create content from an instructional perspective or edit that content. It helps us really sort of get that speed to execution, and we can keep the human element in there, which is the thing that we think is so important at Mailchimp. It is about people. It is about connecting with customers, and it's kind of lean into the tools, but then also validate with the human experience.
So that's interesting with the translation. So is the video side of the AI, is it just going to play a new audio feed on top of it, or is it actually going to try to sync your lips to that, or is it doing a little bit of everything?
Bonkers. Yeah. It's bonkers. The lip sync, everything.
Okay.
So it doesn't feel like those those kung fu movies from the 70s where you're watching things overdubbed, which is good. Again, it creates that human connection. Everybody wants to feel like they're heard. They want to be able to learn in their native language. So whenever we can do that, we've just seen great success. We're definitely with that human augmentation. We're experimenting, but feeling pretty good about the future there.
Yeah, I was going to say, how have the audiences responded to that? I think one thing I've had with my interaction with some AI audio lately, it's been Spotify's been really pushing their AI DJ on me lately, and he kind of came out of the gate and said, I'm your AI DJ, and I know what you listen to. I got some recommendations, which I was good with, and then he came back over the first block of songs, and he had an opinion about the bands, and I felt a little bit of a disconnect there of just like I still want to. I guess be transparent with the use of AI, and understand when I'm interacting with it and when I'm not. But as far as like when you're using it to, kind of dub in another language, are you letting the audience know that you're using a tool to do that before it starts, just to kind of, or are you just presenting it to them as this is a recording in your language?
Yeah, we present it as a recording in the language. One of the things that we always make sure is that we validate it with local speakers too. Yeah. So, that is something that's really important, I think, going forward, sort of as AI is evolving, and then in general with us at Mailchimp, is that we have that validation. So there's the nuances of colloquialisms and language and that kind of thing. So we want to make sure that we're not saying crazy things like the cat's on the roof whenever we're trying to talk about don't let the cat out of the bag around your around your marketing campaign or something like that. So we're validating, but we don't say ahead of time that this was translated through AI. It's a tool is what we're basically how we're thinking about it, in the same way that because it's not creating something that's net new, it's more sort of editing and putting something out there.
It does seem like that's something that a lot of people are concerned about. It feels like, particularly with AI, there's this concern about being transparent that I don't know was really there when we had other new tools come into our marketing and communications world in the past. I don't know, what are you experiencing there, Justin? Have you seen companies and brands being forthright about that, or do you think that it's really just a matter of them presenting, this is the work that we're doing, and this is just one of the tools we're using to create the work?
Sure, I think we're in the early days of it too, and I think I'm leaning on trying to be more transparent with it and just kind of keep building and restoring that trust with our audiences, because we just kind of came out of a phase with digital platforms of understanding how our data is being used and who's using it, and a lot of broken trust. But at the same time, people are so excited about these tools and want to see what they can and can't do. It's easy to just kind of get a little bit ahead of yourself and not understanding where it's pulling its information to know who owns that type of information, or being honest with your audience about like what you've done with it. But at the same time, it is just a tool. So I think we're learning of how much we need to reveal and how much is assumed. I want to err on the side of caution, just like I said, because we came out of that phase of breaking a lot of trust with our audience. But I also want them to be excited about this technology and find its usefulness. But yeah, trust still is very, very forefront for me.
Yeah, I totally agree. I think, because with any new technology, we're all figuring it out, and we're figuring this one out, as it's growing and evolving at a breakneck speed.
Mm-hmm.
So we do need to have that human trust and really make sure that folks understand when or how it's being used, but then also, be transparent and validate human
Yes.
validation
Yeah.
because it's, just the same thing. Like if you Google whatever it is, you should always check your sources. Even a normal Google search brings up some dodgy things sometimes. So we all have to kind of take a look back and see who's actually telling us what we're listening to.
Yeah, I think we have this science fiction expectation of artificial intelligence and thinking that it's a bit infallible, and it is so early days with it's pulling information from us and we're fallible,
Right.
so it's starting at the same level as us, and it's been interesting to see some people not trust it at all, and then some people just take it word for word, especially like if they even give it a slightly wrong prompt of it was technically correct, but that's not the information you're looking for. And there's been already some scenarios of people using false information and not realizing and not trying to use it, but just being careful out there and checking your sources. I don't think treat AI like you would any other person you're working with that's helping you research.
Well, and I think it also gets to that old-fashioned idea of garbage in, garbage out, and that's really where the new frontier I think is going to be when it comes to the use of AI. If we're going to make it something that can be used and that will bring value, we have to really massage that into a way that we're putting good information in if we want to get even better information out.
And it'll be as we're learning to use it. I think the trick will be, again, it's a tool, and as kind of the experts in this field or the creators in this field begin to use these tools, it's like they'll be able to create authentic experiences using AI along the way. Like
Right.
I think the thing that I didn't fully understand right away when we were, especially around when the image generation stuff started, was I was looking at these AI images that everybody was just having fun with and making prompts, and they were creating a singular image from a prompt. But then when you see what an artist is doing with those prompts, they're creating several AI images and then compositing those images together to combine with their original work to actually make an original piece of just like these. What AI makes is just a piece of what the final experience will be, and the real masters will be able to kind of weave that together to make these authentic experiences that don't, where people don't question at the level that I was talking about of like, if I see a video that is being interpreted by AI and looks a little bit wonky, and makes me kind of question how it was made, that's where that trust gets broken for me. But like when these tools are in capable hands, it really does take those experiences to another more memorable level.
Right. I would totally agree. So let's switch gears just a little bit, and I want to kind of key off of the idea of trust that you brought up earlier, Justin. And so, Erika, in your role in customer education, obviously it's really important for your brand to build trust with your customers. And so you're exploring that topic every day in all of the materials that you're creating from an education standpoint. And it does seem like education is a good way to start the conversation and start building the relationship with a brand new customer and to keep it going with an existing customer. Tell us a little bit more about your role in customer education and some of the maybe lessons that you've learned in recent times.
Sure. So at Mailchimp, we do it a little differently. Typically, customer education is just that. But what we do is it's all encompassing. So we handle all of the external facing education. So that's the knowledge base, it's live webinars, video tutorials, all those sorts of things. And then we also do the internal enablement of all of our customer facing people. So that means we're teaching them how to use the product. We're teaching them how to speak with a Mailchimp voice and tone, and then also how to solve our customers' problems. So the thing that really we found success with in that is we can create that linear thread in that like language. So when a customer comes in, a lot of folks look at the knowledge base, or they'll attend a live webinar, or whatever it is, to figure out how the product works. Will this work for me? They want to sort of get past the sales speak and things like that, and just sort of dig in and understand. So that's that very first interaction. Then the next step, if they need to talk to a salesperson, they can talk to that salesperson, but the salesperson is speaking in the same way that we showed up in that educational content. It makes it more familiar, it makes it easier. And, from a brand perspective, we always want to make sure that we can create that level of comfort and that great experience for the customer, so they don't feel like they're being pressured or anything like that. It follows all the way through. So whenever they're then going to a live webinar, we like to have fun. They tell jokes or talk about the Oscars or things like that every once in a while, just to, make it a little bit more palatable. I think some days, you got to laugh at work. If you're not laughing, then you're doing it wrong.
Yeah, definitely. So, Justin, I'm curious what your experiences have been when it comes to customer education, and any kind of overarching philosophical things that you like to keep in mind when you're thinking about really building strong customer education points for our clients or for others.
Yeah, I think what Erica's kind of leaning on is just humanizing it, and just being honest with your audience, but trying to figure out, like, that everybody on the education side, just everybody learns differently, and just having multiple ways for them to find content their way, and multiple ways to digest it, and as long as you have multiple entry points and are just kind of tracking that effectiveness, just being aware of how people are using and want to get to the information, and having it available in multiple ways, and just being sure that you're aware that not everybody learns the same way, or wants to, or starting from the same point. I think that was kind of just making sure that your content is searchable, and you're solving that initial problem, because as soon as you kind of have that first experience where you did help them find the solution they were looking for, they're going to trust that you might have the other related things that they're looking for. So, but it's just, you can't always start from the same place with everyone, and that's kind of been the change with how digital content's been created in the last 4 or 5 years. It's just, we have so many different channels to present that, and just being aware of what's effective and what's not, and always making adjustments.
Yeah, definitely. And Erika, you were mentioning quite a number of different channels that you all are working within. I'm curious if there are ones that you think are working better for your customers, or you're just, maybe there's a trend in a new area that you're exploring more of. Tell us a little bit about that.
Yeah, we're finding lots and lots of luck with live webinars. One of the things that, we've all gotten used to screens. Yeah. Here we are doing it live, that kind of thing. So to be able to have that human assisted touch at scale is really valuable. Whenever the live webinars are done with that purpose in mind, that it is human assisted at scale, it's not just sort of a video lesson, sort of that your elementary teacher would push play on the VCR or whatever it was, and then the lesson would go, and then they would come back. Whenever you can interact, whenever you can make it personal, live Q&A, all that sort of stuff, our customers love it, because they have that ability to be a little bit anonymous. If they want to ask questions, or if they just want to listen, totally fine. If they want to be front and center and raise their hand and show up and ask a question, totally an opportunity as well. So we see big opportunity there. We're also experimenting with educational content on TikTok. It's a totally different world, but the educational content and how it shows up on TikTok is exciting. I think that it's also making sure that we're being inclusive and aware of the variety of ways that our customers consume content, but then also which specific generations are leaning into what, to learn. So a lot of folks, that's TikTok is where they go to do all the learning. We've got YouTube also. There's another generation that focuses there. So
are you finding that your initial delivery of that content, is it in webinar form? Is that kind of where you start, and then after you've kind of had those interactions with the audience, you're able to like pare it down and deliver it for the other platforms a little bit better?
Relative to the TikTok, it's more sort of instructional.
Okay.
We're also experimenting with YouTube Reels, which is sort of another version of TikTok. Or sort of ish. I'm sure TikTok would be mad if they heard me say that. So sorry, y'all.
But our short form vertical videos, yeah.
Exactly. Yeah, short form. But the point is that there's an opportunity to interact, and there's an opportunity to just watch. I think that that's where the value is, that point of interaction. And even if it's, somebody doesn't want to interact, they know they can.
Yeah.
And I think that there's that psychological value of that as well.
And are you? I'm trying to figure out the space in between those, between the live webinars and the incredibly short form videos, and just how we can make those other videos on demand still be effective. But it's interesting that you've noticed that just the opportunity to be able to ask questions during a live session being probably performing better than just posting that video after the fact.
It's true, and we also do simulated live, which is a little bit different. We do that to help out with the time zones because, we do have such an international presence. It is more that it's, here's the content that plays out, but we do have somebody that is watching the Q&A thread along the way. So we're answering the questions, but the content is actually recorded. So you won't get a direct interaction with, the person that's going through whatever element that they're reviewing in the product, but you will be able to get your question answered. So that makes it a little easier. It does make it a little more scalable, kind of to what you're talking about.
Is that are those answers just handled like over chat, basically just a text chat? Okay. Yeah,
just in the Q&A, and then everybody else can see the questions and the answers, which is nice. That's always fun to just sort of listen and learn as well.
Well, I kind of cut my teeth on the early days of Twitch, right after it actually, right after they renamed it from Justin TV. I was experimenting with live streaming, and I was always kind of playing with the idea of being able to rebroadcast a live stream, because you do like that live interaction, but just whether or not you just wanted somebody else live in chat to be able to answer things, or even like doing almost like a watch-alongs or like picture-in-picture style of like you still have a live crew on camera, because there is something a little bit different of getting your question answered over text, because especially now you don't even know if it's a chatbot or a real person, but being able to see that person, like even just rebroadcasting your own content, but showing that you have a live group there, and just making it a little bit more personal, because I think that's going to be one of those challenges with, even before this most recent AI discussion, the chatbots were getting so effective, like, and being able to quickly discern whether or not you're talking to a human or not. I think that's going to be important to your education content, is that they still feel like they're interacting with an actual human being, and just being, again, that trust side, just being upfront with whether or not that is a real person, and showing that interaction.
Yeah.
Yeah, I love that suggestion around a watch along. I think that's really interesting.
I feel. Yeah, sorry.
Yeah, I might play with that. I'll give you the credit. Sure. So, that's cool.
I do think that, with Twitch being around and the live streaming being around for a lot longer, like, that audience is very comfortable with that style, and they're in their 30s now. So that's just going to keep getting to be more and more common. But you everyone's going to have to stay on top of too of like what's going to be behind TikTok as far as how we're going to interact with content too. So
yeah, definitely. So to that point too, in terms of finding a lot of value in, of course, having your own channels that you can really manipulate however you want. And then looking at some of these other channels, such as TikTok, that we don't necessarily own, but finding ways to leverage those to reach people from a customer education, from a content perspective. Erika, are you all working within other channels that you don't own, and are you finding any pitfalls there that others could potentially learn from?
We're about to do some work in collaboration with our partners at Intuit QuickBooks around some LinkedIn education opportunities. Pretty excited about that. It's nothing that that we've ever really done, LinkedIn Learning. So I think that'll be fun and a cool place to learn. We do YouTube tutorials and things like that. So again, we don't own that, but we're able to have that there. I will say one of the things that's very exciting is we've got a really great network of partners. So agencies and freelancers that are out in the world using Mailchimp, and they're making their own educational content. So we're really leaning into working with those folks and tapping them as content creators. The stuff that they're doing is so smart. And that, I think that's where the fun really happens. We're in the product and we're creating it all day, every day, but to be able to see someone that plays with your toy in a different way and is able to solve a problem, that's amazing.
Yeah.
So we're really, we're working with them to figure out, like, how do we help lift this up and how do we help our other customers learn from them?
That's a great example of how you can really leverage that credibility, because these other individuals who aren't even associated with your brand, who are bringing those things, and it's basically like a commercial that you didn't have to pay for in some respects.
Well, and like I said, they're tweaking the use of the product in a really cool way,
right?
Which is also fun.
And they're showing in the moment, real life example of how the product actually works, as opposed to sometimes customer education can feel a little bit theoretical until you really get in there and play with it yourself and really understand how a product really works in your setting as a customer. So, Justin, tell us a little bit more about any experiences or what you've seen in terms of other education and content efforts that brands have been involved in with channels that they don't necessarily own. I know, there's a lot of conversation right now about what's going on with Twitter and how we use Twitter and what's going to happen going forward. Tell us a little bit about what you're thinking on that front.
Twitter has all been top of mind for me the last 6 months with all of its changes, and just its fragmentation is just kind of hit home with just how it isn't about investing in one platform anymore to get your message out. So I think it's what we're going to see is a lot of these products will begin to separate themselves because they have other means to understand their audience rather than just relying on kind of the one megaphone of the one network that worked for them. They're going to have to learn from their customers and have their content available to them on multiple platforms, and just to be able to reach new customers and also promote those effective experiences from customers that are using their tools. So it's challenging just because it was easier when we kind of had a monoculture, and I think we're in another transition point. I mean, if we were talking a year and a half ago, we would have thought we were much deeper into the metaverse at this point, and that hasn't come to fruition at the speed that Mark wanted. But there are still going to be new frontiers. I mean, Apple's they kind of came out of the gates last week they have a different vision for mixed reality and how that will affect how we consume their content, and so all that stuff's really exciting. And but as far as just having those educational experiences land home, the most effective ones I've seen are just the people that understand the tools that they are using, and making the best of them, and also continue to adapt and learn from others. And I think that's my other transparency hit is just being open to knowing that the way you're using it isn't the best way, and that goes for brands too, that they can learn from each other. And so just anytime I see brands either coming together to promote an effective way to do something, or highlighting an influencer in their space and elevating them over the brand, those seem to have the most legs as far as actually building some engagement.
Yeah, and some of the examples Erika was just talking about really are going right in that direction. Erika,
yeah, well, and I think
go ahead.
that just helps, like, to what you're saying, to be able to validate that other people have great ideas.
Mm-hmm.
Let's pull them up too,
Mm-hmm.
and then it's just going to be so much better. Like, every collaboration is an opportunity to learn more about yourself and to learn more about how you show up in the community. So the more we can lean in on those things, the value's humongous.
And I think what that kind of just spurred in me is, as we've seen, like, almost promotion and PR come back around in-house to these different products and different companies, and them promoting their own, having the means to, like, tell their own stories. Like, that was exciting, just to be able to see behind the scenes stuff at different companies, but it is still through their lens, and people have gotten used to that point of now we're not sure if I can trust your message because it's just coming from you. But when they can pull in those real world influencers, I still think that has a lot of effect to not just show these people using your tools, but and not just promoting them, but also highlighting the fact that they have ideas that you didn't have, like being honest with the fact that they had something you didn't think of, and embracing that fact, and like never coming across as this infallible company that has all the answers, but we are looking to our community to make better answers and grow from each other.
Right. Well, Erika, as we start to wrap up our conversation today, I would love to hear more from you about what you think is kind of the defining characteristics of good customer interactions, good customer education. I know in some past conversations we've talked a little bit about that, and you've talked a lot about setting your customers up for true success. So I'd love just to hear more about your thoughts on that.
Yeah, I think that's something that we always try to do, to keep in mind that it is about setting our customers up for success. It's about listening. I think it is one of the things in customer education. It can be a challenge to some organizations. They forget to listen. They forget to listen to what their customers want, or how they want that content to show up, or even where the customers are stumbling. I think we all, sometimes get just sort of mired down in here's the customer journey that we're trying to go through, and we've already created that piece of content. But if it's extra hard, or if there's an extra level of value for customers on those points, it's very, very important for us to double down on those and repeat it and do it again, or talk about it in a different way. I think that's that valuable opportunity that sometimes folks miss because they're trying to go so fast. At the end of the day, it is a creative outlet, so it's got to be fun. We do have to slow down to speed up sometimes, and remember that it is about the customer, and it is about creating that chance for them to be more successful and for them to be better. And if you're not doing that, you're not doing it right.
I mean, I think that's the interaction part. It used to be that it was just enough to kind of come up with a roadmap because your competitors didn't have one, and people then, once everyone started having these plans, they just got into that race of checking off all the features or the next thing on the list, and not pausing to have that interaction with their customers, especially the ones that are most engaged, that inform this original roadmap, but recognizing this is a living plan that you need to go back and adapt and listen and have those interactions on both sides to tie it back together. You want to have those memorable interactions with your customers and vice versa.
So, Erika, as we talk about innovation, I'd love to hear a little bit more about some of those stories of your customers and some of the innovative things that they're doing to really create those meaningful connections with their customers.
Yeah, one of the things a lot of folks typically ask, tell me about email marketing best practices. So I love this question. This is, I think, at the core of how you are successful with your marketing. We've got a customer that they're a local Atlanta restaurant group. It's a really great taco place. If y'all ever want to go, let me know. I'll tell you the spot. But they have this crazy email campaign. It's twice a week or once every 2 weeks that they send it out. And it's got just sort of like poetry. It's got different sort of photographs and art in there. It talks about the menu, it talks about the drink specials and that kind of thing. But they also have a Spotify playlist that is awesome. It's unbelievable. It's, something for folks to actually want to open the email because there's value there for them. It's beyond, to know what the drink special is and that kind of thing, because you're getting something out of it too. It's fast, it's free, it's easy. And you read the drink special, and 9 times out of 10, that makes me want queso and a drink. So I'll go up the street and do that. They're having really, really great success with their open rates because people are hungry for this, because it is something different, and it's that human connection. So that's just a great example of thinking outside of the box and doing something a little bit weird that most people aren't doing, that are drawing customers to open those emails and then have that awareness of what's going on in the store.
Yeah, that's a great example of that human element that we were all talking about, whether it's just in humanizing the way you're using AI or just humanizing the staff of your restaurant, and showing that we have a love of music and it's in keeping with our brand because we're a fun, cutting edge type of a brand. I think those are great examples.
It's just neat that they found it's also just directly tied to the culture of that place. Like and also who doesn't like a living playlist, and just to see what they're into right now, because I obviously already like your vibe. I'm subscribed to your newsletter, and I'm just curious on the technical data side. I'm assuming they're linking directly to that playlist. They're probably not even going through like a landing page. Yeah, so they're still getting the open rates, right. But they're also, they don't have to take them to an owned space. They can, because I would, on the user side, I wouldn't want that extra click. I wouldn't want to open the newsletter, click on the link, and go to their landing page that then has a link to that Spotify playlist. Just the fact that that's working so well for them to just get the email open. I think that's just, right. That's perfect. That's a perfect fit.
It makes it more human.
Yeah, it's awesome.
Human.
And it's easy.
Yes.
It's nice.
Yeah.
Definitely.
We talked about Twitter kind of fragmenting lately, and I've been kind of trying to figure out where all of these great Twitter accounts that I used to follow, and they used to have a dedicated audience there, and as they're trying to find a new home, I've seen a lot of them kind of creep into the newsletter space a little bit. Just that line that is blurring between what used to be traditional blogs to newsletters that now have like subscription fees attached to them. It's also kind of a line in between. We've seen the like Patreon develop in this space too, of just subscribe to my content. They get some subscribers and some monetary kickback to be able to continue to make this content. But I've been trying to figure out where brands fit in this space as far as like the next evolution of either their blog or their newsletter subscriptions, because it feels like we're going more in this direction. And what have you guys noticed about like kind of the subscription newsletter model that's evolved here in the last year or so?
Yeah, at Mailchimp, it's nothing that we're really leaning into. Just me as a human, I think that it's something that we should start to think about. I think it's a huge market. The opportunity there, though, is to, again, think about what's the value of it. Is it a curated experience? Is it that opportunity to have access to some thing or a bit of news or information that you can't get somewhere else, that's what you're gonna need to do to solve for in that newsletter scenario. I think that back in the day that everybody had a newsletter and it just plugged up all of our inboxes. To be able to use a curated newsletter to sort of decrease the amount of things that's in your inbox so you can learn more faster. That's key, and get access to different things that everybody else can't.
Yeah,
there's good stuff there.
Yeah, it's creating value around that kind of unique content you're creating. But I have found that has changed my approach to how I manage my inbox. So that's a good point of like, the inbox was messy there for 5 or 6 years, but now it's becoming more useful again. But also we have to kind of take ownership of your inbox again, like because I had a lot of cleanup I needed to do to be able to get the new stuff that I was subscribing to float to the top again, amongst all the stuff that I didn't intentionally subscribe to. But it's been more embraced than I expected, because it felt like an older model that, I mean, honestly, that Twitter users had moved beyond. They would have more instant access to all the information, and now we're being a little bit more selective about the information we want, but also want to support the people that are making that information. So it's just been an interesting transition.
Yeah. Well, and I love that. I think the last point that you made, there is so much content out there, and to be able to support content creators, that's a really cool thing that can happen through that subscription-based opportunity. And I think also maybe we're getting to a point where folks want to slow down a little bit.
Sure.
They don't want it right away. They want to know that my newsletter is going to come in on Friday night, and this is what I'm going to read Saturday morning when I drink my coffee.
Sure.
Sort of that when the Sunday paper shows up. I think my parents had that moment where they would sit down with their coffee and some kind of pastry and just take a slow read. I think that this subscription opportunity could be that.
Oh gosh, the parallels to, managing. We were talking before the show just about the different, streaming subscriptions that we have, and the fact that you almost have to stay on top of those on a monthly basis, of just like this is the other side of there being too much information at all times, and you almost having to curate for yourselves. You're going to form some of these new habits, but I think you're going to have a more intimate relationship with the content you're interacting with too.
Well, this has been a great conversation today. I thank you both for joining us and for all of your insights related to customer education, customer interactions that we want to have. There's so much that we could talk about on this subject, but we'll leave a little bit of that for another day. Erika, thank you so much for joining us today. Appreciate your time. And I just want to encourage all of our viewers, if you found today's conversation informative, we would love for you to subscribe to our YouTube channel. We also would love for you to look for ShoffChats on your favorite podcast platform. And we will be having another episode coming up soon. Thank you both.
Thank you.
Thanks, y'all.